let me just tell you something. In the world of comedy, Britain has created some absolute comedic legends. Now, fair's fair, we've also put out a lot of rubbish. But when you talk about the greats, there are a few. And the word legend is thrown around way too much, which is why I won't use it now. However, I will say that it is a pleasure to speak to Mr. John Cleese.
Yay!
Good morning.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm not a legend anymore. I heard on Thursday I have been promoted to comedy icon.
Oh,
Lovely.
Yes, that's right. I've gone from institution to legend, and now I'm an icon. I was very thrilled about that. I was told Thursday evening, and I went out and celebrated.
oh, good. Do you prefer icon to legend?
I think so. Yes, I got a bit bored with legend. People coming up to me and saying, "You're a legend." What do you say? Yes?
You say, yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
But you know, it's fair's fair, right? Do you, like, obviously, it's a weird thing. You would never call up one of the other Python members and go, "Hi, just wanted to remind you that we're legends. Anyway, have a nice dinner."
I say that to Palin about once a week because he's very short on self-confidence. You know, if I don't call him and tell him he's a legend, he gets quite miserable. And Helen, his wife, of some 160 years, calls me and said, "Johnny needs the call again." So I give him a call. I say, "Hello, Mickey. How are you?" Sir Mickey, sorry. You know, I said, "Don't forget, you're a legend." And he said, "Oh, God, what a relief. Thanks."
But you must, and if you don't, you must look back at some of the work you've done and go, that is perfection. I am delighted I made it. I'm very happy with it. It will live forever. For example, Fawlty Towers, you could have milked it dry for 25 years. You didn't. You made it. It sits there. It's perfect.
Yeah, well, Connie and I, after the second series, Connie Booth and I just thought we can't do better than that. We could do another series, and everyone would say, "Oh, it was very good," but it wasn't as good as the first two series. So what's the point unless you really need the money? And after all, it was made for the BBC, which is, I say, the organization for which I do most of my charitable work.
Do you think that when you if you ever look back at it or remember it, do you?
No, I do think Fawlty Towers is pretty damn good. Yes, I watch it, and I watch it with a hawkish eye because I hate the moments which aren't quite right, like when the moose head drops onto me. And if you look at it carefully, you can see I'm waiting for it to drop.
Right.
It's just fractionally slow to be cued, and we didn't go back and redo it because I didn't know that. You know, I should, if I'd seen it, I'd have said to the director, "Let's just do that bit again." So you see these tiny little things and then you sort of irritate. But no, I think the strength of Fawlty Towers was the plots. The plots were terribly good. And if you have a good, funny plot, you don't really have to write hilarious dialogue. You see what I mean? Because the situation is funny. So I thought that was a very good series. And I think Fish Called Wanda is really good, and I think Life of Brian is really good. Everything else is okay. Most of the Python stuff is sometimes really funny and sometimes misses, you know, but that's what happens in a sketch show. Every
so often I will just go and revisit some of the songs or actually go and watch the videos back of the songs. I'm a huge fan of Mr. Eric Idle.
Isn't he good? You see, right at the start, Chris, we had very little music in Python, and the longer we went on, the more and more we became reliant on Eric's songs, and they were terribly good.
He's very, very... I've always wanted to meet him, but I'll be honest with you, the main reason I want to meet him is because he's very pally with Jeff Lynne from ELO, who I want to meet more. But I think Eric could be my in. Do you know what I mean? But I was.
He does know all the pop stars.
He really does, doesn't he?
All rock stars or whatever.
Because he's clearly, and I say this with nothing but love and respect, he's clearly a frustrated rock star, is Eric.
Well, he's very musical, and in the early days, he wrote some very good sketches, but we didn't realize we had this little sort of songwriter in our midst. And then I think it was sometime during Meaning of Life, we suddenly realized there's some great songs there. I particularly like the one about the universe, you know, when he gets out of the fridge.
It's beautiful.
And then we did a stage show together. We went to tour America. We did about 20 shows, and it was just fantastic. I'd sit in the wings, tapping my foot, listening to these great songs.
I was sat listening to some the other night. I played a couple of songs to somebody who'd never heard them before, a young person. And then everybody left and went to bed, and then I stayed up and had a few drinks and sat with my headphones on and went through a lot of the old Python songs. And there's just every sperm is sacred. I'm sorry, but it's an underrated masterpiece. And then
it's a masterpiece.
The visuals that go with it, with the whole dance routine,
yes.
It's mind-blowingly perfect in every single.
I quite agree. And beautifully directed by dear old Terry Jones too. And tell me a couple of others you like.
Of the songs?
Yeah.
Okay, so in no particular order. So the Meaning of Life song is great.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Yes.
It's a lovely pastiche. The Life of Brian a theme. That song is
the song at the front. At the front, the sort of Shirley Bassey take.
Yeah, which is perfect. It's a perfect parody. I love a parody. I know. By the way, I should be having this chat with Eric, but I'm doing it with you. I'm really worried. John's going to go.
Being interviewed as Eric is a new experience, much more interesting because I know the answer to all the other questions that you're going to ask.
I love. I like. I mean, I don't know if it's where we live these days, but I do like the simplicity and the silliness of I Like Chinese.
Yes,
I really like it.
I'm sure that is more than politically incorrect. I mean, that is politically disgusting or heinous. I love that song.
And then, but even the Money song. So I found myself randomly the other day. Somebody on the TV must have just said, in a certain beat, "I've got 95," and I went. In my pajamas, I've got, and then I've suddenly gone. What am I singing? I'm singing the Money song,
that's right.
And then I had to run away and sing the Money song to myself. It's very, very bizarre. It was just somebody had said something on TV and made me think.
I've got 90,000 pounds in my pajamas.
That was it, and then I was.
That's very good.
Now I do want to talk about your book because you have a new, fun guide out. It's a book called Creativity. And I often say this on the show a lot. I urge people to order it now. Just order it and have it delivered and let it turn up. I don't read books, John. I'm not a big reader. I don't have the attention span and I'm too lazy.
This one, Chris, this can be read in an hour.
John, that's if you take your time. I got the tube home the other day. I'm halfway through the book.
The whole point of it, you know that lovely thing that somebody once said, which is, I'm sorry this is such a long letter, but I didn't have time to write a shorter one.
That's right.
Meaning that if you can really think about something, you can always boil it down to something much more concise. And I did have the time to write a shorter book. So it only takes an hour. And lovely Marsha Carney said it took just over, because, she's still learning to read. And she got all the points in it in 1 hour. Now, Chris, you could read a book for an hour.
I really could. And so it's called Creativity. You can get it now. You can order it now.
Guess what it's about?
And you tell everybody what it's about.
Well, it's about creativity, you see. It's not a very creative title, really. I could get criticized for that. But it's basically to tell people how they can get more creative, and it's incredibly simple. The most creative people are people who can play. The research shows that they can play. And it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. If you can't play, you can't be creative. So that's very simple. Then you have to say, all right, how can you play? And you think of children playing. Why can they play in that wonderful, free and spontaneous way? And the answer is because the parents are minding the shop. You see, if you cannot play if you've got lots of responsibilities and things you've got to do. So if you want to play when you're an adult, you have to create a space where you get away from those responsibilities and interruptions, and you can just sit there quietly for an hour or so, just playing with various ideas. That's it. You don't need to buy the book now.
No. No, I'm sure it would help. I'm sure.
I don't think you need it. You know it anyway.
You must be paying somebody off still, so I'm sure the sales would help. in all seriousness, that John makes a point in the book very early on, which says this book is about creativity, and you might think, yeah, but I'm not a creative person, or I'm not in a job that warrants any kind of creativity. And he goes, that's irrelevant. You can be creative in almost every aspect of your life and your thinking, and it is not deep, this book. It is not too taxing, and I'm honestly, I read about 40 odd pages on the train the other day, and I'm like, this is fascinating. This is really, I'll be honest, it's a pamphlet in hardback, but
Yes.
but it's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot of things that people recognize when you talk to them about it. They think, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I find. But you never get taught it. Nobody ever sits down and explains it to you in good old-fashioned words. And I don't know why, because this should be taught in schools. Of course, you should spend 1 hour of a school curriculum teaching people how to become creative, but no one I've ever spoken to has had a lesson like that.
No, and well, people seem to think that creativity is something that you just have rather than you can learn.
Yeah, and it's rubbish. It's rubbish. I mean, some people live with it, but other people just forget it, because there's a very interesting guy who used to go into schools to try and teach creativity. He said the 6-year-olds, he said, who's creative? All the hands went up. Then the 10-year-olds, who's creative? About half the hands go up. And the 12-year-olds, who's creative? About a few hands go up. By the time you get to the 16-year-olds, you say, who's creative in the room? They're all looking around to see who this misfit is. And that's because of the way that we're educated. And we get the creativity educated out of us, really, because education is about getting things right. And if you're worried about getting things wrong, you'll never be creative. There's an old English saying, a man who's not made a mistake is unlikely to have made anything.
That's true. It is honestly, it's a really interesting book, and there's so many little, and it's basically written in little tiny paragraphs, to pad it.
Why complicate things? People sometimes complicate things, but it's because a lot of writers, I think, are showing off rather than really communicating.
It's lovely. It's called Creativity, and everybody should buy it now. Just order it now, even just because John managed to say one of the words that you don't ever say on breakfast radio. He managed to say that in the first 2 minutes of being on, which is,
which word was that, Chris?
No, it was that one. John, I love talking to you. This is only the second time that I've ever spoken to you, but I just love having the opportunity to speak to you. And
ask me on again, because I like this. This is fun. First thing in the morning, I like it.
Well, let's go for dinner. How about that?
Yes, I'd love to.
I'd love that, and
I'm about to flee England because I can't cope with the weather in the winter. So when we get back in the spring, we'll have a nice little dinner together.
Hold on a sec. Where are you going?
I don't know.
Oh, well, just let me know. I'll come over.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to Mustique next week with my darling wife, who I've hardly seen this year.
Beautiful. I've never been. Let me know where you're staying.
All right. Right.
I'm just
Blue Waters.
I'm posing for a picture. Is that your wife next to you?
No, that's a lovely lady who's been provided to make sure that all the technical things go here. And she arrived about 10 minutes ago and I'd overslept,
John,
which is why my hair is all over the place.
This is the difference between, now it all wraps up, this is the difference between comedy legend and comedy icon. When you're a legend, they don't send women around to your apartment to help you with your equipment. You've reached that point. You've finally done it. They will send you women. Have her washed and sent to my room immediately. John, I will see you in Mystique. I'm sure that the missus will be delighted when I turn up.
Yes, come on out. It's lovely, and there's no coronavirus there because it's the smallest island in the Caribbean, I think.
Oh, God, that will be tempting. John, lovely to speak to you. Lots of love to you and your family, and I'll see you for dinner.
Lovely. Great, Chris.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Cleese. The book is called Creativity, and you can get it now.
Radio. The Chris Moyles Show.